happening, League of Leaders? How powerful can a message be? My guest today started on stage as a stand-up comedian, Comedy Central, did a few movies, the whole ride. Then he taught comedy at Colorado College, and almost by accident, one keynote turned him into a professional speaker, teaching people to build real connection through humor. He's a five-time TEDx speaker coach on 3 continents, and today he runs Top Talks in his own TEDx mentorship program. He loves his work, and you're about to hear why. Cesar Cervantes, welcome to Leadership
Johnny,
Live, my friend.
what's happening? I've been looking forward to this, man. Thanks so much for having me.
Same here. I am so curious, man. Like you have launched into this really crazy career. I'm sure this is what you wanted to be when you grew up, right? You're like, all right, comedian, check, Comedy Central, and then coach people. Like, is this how you planned? How'd you get here?
Oh, I think I knew I didn't want to do something traditional. I think that was kind of always, in the background. But the story goes is just I was an extroverted kid, and my parents just put me on a stage wherever they were like, go to theater camp and stay there for a while. And I was doing commercials as a kid, and then just kind of always wanted to make people laugh when I was on stage. Like I was in like Stuart Little, and like my role had nothing to do with being funny, but I just found a way to do it. And so that led to me, getting on stand-up stages, and I was touring. And by the time I was 19, I was doing like USO MWR tours overseas, and then moved to LA and did my thing for a while. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right. So I want to get into the TED Talk stuff. I mean, anyone who is in the world of leadership, we have all been influenced by TEDx, by TED Talks. I would say there's probably books, there are maybe podcasts, but TED Talks is right in there and amongst the top influential things for people
Yeah.
in leadership. Why should a leader want to do a TED Talk?
Well, I think both the communication skills that you develop from that and demonstrate are powerful, right? I believe we're all one interaction, one conversation away from creating whatever outcome it is that we want to create. And in large part, that is determined by how well we connect and communicate. The TED stage is really cool because it's short form and it focuses on an idea. And really the way that we want to look at this is often we think of a talk being about like, if I can just get the content right, then that's what's gonna, get people excited. But actually what we should be trying to create is transformation in the individuals that are listening to us speak. And that's a whole different game. That starts with how we structure our talks. When you couple that with being on a platform like TED and TEDx, it can really be life-changing if you do it right.
I'm curious. You said one of my favorite words, transformation. And I feel like that a lot of us get stuck. I'm a former school teacher, and I understand that you can do this all day long, and it doesn't necessarily change things. But information versus transformation, like what would you say is the difference in what if I mean you've seen some bombs, I'm sure, and
Yeah.
you've seen the opposite. Like what's the difference? What would you say?
Yeah. So let's say you're kind of very new to speaking. Often what we do is we take like the idea of presentations from work. Like we've got some slides and we have an intro, and then we get to the content that we want to communicate. When you shift to transformation, what you start doing is you draw people in to a problem, and there has to be common ground that's shared within this problem. We have to build that problem. We need to agitate it, make it big and urgent. And there needs to be a desire from our audience to want to solve it. And then we reveal a new way in which to do it. That's thought leadership, right?
Mm.
We've been doing it like this, but really this is the answer.
Mm,
And once we see the new vision, like the promised land is clear, then we use story, what I call like an OMG moment. G stands for gift for
mm.
me. It's like the fullness of the message. And there's an emotional connection that lifts the audience up and makes them the hero. That's really the moment of transformation where if you've watched a TED Talk and in 10 minutes it changed your worldview, it's because you had that moment where not only were you logically bought in, but you were also emotionally invested. And then we call our audience to action because it's really behavior change that we're looking for. It's really that we want people to do something and to carry it forward. So that's the difference.
Well, okay. I need to know the gift. Like the OMG is like OM. Is that still oh my? And then G is
Yeah.
gift. Okay. So like, what do you mean when you're saying gift? What does that mean in your
Yeah.
context?
So it's a specific kind of story. So let's say we open our talk with a story that leads us to a problem. So maybe Donnie, I don't know, you had you were trying to change the way in which you would put together some kind of report, right? Let's just make it real simple. So you tell this story and you're like, yeah, you know how we do reports and like this is the thing we have to do and it really is like, well, why do we have to do that, you know? Well, it's because we're thinking of it like this, but what if we thought about it like this, right? And that's how you kind of introduce the problem. The OMG brings us back to that opening story where maybe you had this moment at work where you really struggled with it and you figured out the problem, but you didn't reveal the second half of it. This second half often lifts up a hero, brings us back to that story, and maybe there's a coworker that helped you see something different and you're connected to them in some kind of way, right? There's a relationship.
Mhm.
And because of that, there's an emotional connection to both that you and that character, but now also the audience sees themselves in this figure because they're just like them, right? And the way that you tell the story is about a new reveal, a new insight, but it's outside of you. So we don't want to lift up you as the hero. That's one of the most common mistakes that we make as early speakers, even experienced speakers. It's just something we do. So the way to avoid that is to
Mm.
make the hero external. And that's the way the audience accesses then the message, the emotional component, and the desire to take action.
So then is the gift then it's almost like here is your Excalibur. Like is it the gift is brought to you by another in some ways instead of it being and I thought of this great idea. It's more that we're giving
Good
credit.
question. Yeah, it's brought to us in this story form, but it's not spoon fed to us. So, what we're also trying to do is allow the audience to arrive. So, sometimes, we might hear like a motivational speech that's like, I did it and you can do it too. And we're like, okay, thanks. It falls flat because you're both the hero and now you're just telling them what to do. The opposite of that is where you're not the hero and you give them 2 plus 2, but not 4.
Wow. Okay. I've heard there's a couple things going through my mind. One of those is Donald Miller story brand where he pulls from
Yeah,
the hero's journey, right? And his whole thing is like, hey, if you're selling, I guess it's the same selling or trying to help people in any way, you're not the hero. You're the guide. And so in other words, this is there's some
that's
of
right.
that element that
That's right.
I'm feeling. Do you feel like that we all inside of us, do you feel like we all have a signature talk? Caesar, do you feel like that we all have something to share and bring?
For sure. And especially if you have already had leadership roles and been in positions. I mean, there's no way to be in a position of leadership without, learning some lessons. And I just think life in general is teaching us all the time. So everyone has experiential things that they would like to share. The difference between just a story though and an idea is that think of it as as I was saying before, as a new way to solve a problem. So it could be
Okay.
an old problem, or it could be a new problem that we haven't figured out yet. And I think that's the best way to sort of distinguish between thought leadership and just speaking in general.
Do you like as you're going through this, it feels like a lot of this also lends itself to everything from copywriting to influence to sales. Like, do you find it all kind of follows the same structure as? Have you seen like the master code somewhere, and this is what it is, or?
I think that there's definitely overlap, but I think if you get too prescriptive. So my goal in writing my book, Grade Speech, was that the gap in the market was that when I looked at all of the speaking books and I read them all, any of the ones that I felt like I could find and were on Amazon. So with that caveat, and the gap was that they were big picture and they were trying to provide all of the things, right? Which means that especially for the person that is bringing it together or they're early, they don't have a good structure to give, or the structures that were being offered were really complex. And so what I focused on first was to say, here's the structure for transformation. Um, and this is a surefire way to create it. However, as you get more experienced, you can break the rules. And so because of that, because I carved out this niche that is super actionable and you can go and write a keynote speech in 3 hours after reading my book, you can read it in 3 hours. And it takes you through a worksheet, a blueprint where you can create your keynote while you're reading it. And so you'll have your first draft by the end of it.
No
Um,
way.
yeah, yeah. And so I think because of that, that's my books. My book sells multiple copies a day, which I never thought would happen. I do no marketing whatsoever on it. I really created it for my clients and then put it out there, and my community is really great too, and so they share it all the time. But I've been really surprised by how well it moves.
So this is your graphic, right? Do we have the right graphic up for you? Crafting
Yeah, that's
signature
great.
talks. There we go. Yeah, if you guys listen, Caesar is here, and one of the things that I love, Caesar, I can't tell you, and I want to get into it, like how and why. Like we know why people should be doing this. A lot of the people that listen and watch here, this is on their vision board, right?
Yeah.
They've been saying this for years. I want to do a TEDx talk, right? And there's a reason for it. We'll get into the whys and the hows in a second. But I want to know, like, I'm curious, like, what was the keynote? What was the moment that shifted for you? So you just kind of came and bumped around through comedy. What was the moment that shifted for you of comedian taken seriously?
Yeah.
What was the shift?
Well, I remember, let me back up a little bit, because what happened was that after like 10 or 15 years of doing stand up and, grinding it out, I just felt a little like I wasn't as excited by getting laughs anymore. I wanted to actually say something. I wanted to connect with people on a deeper level. I knew the stage was still for me, but I started to feel constricted by stand up. And there are some comedians that can say something and still be funny, and they're legends, right? Like, I think Dave Chappelle is in that camp,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
There are others. But what happened for me was that I decided, like, I got to figure something else out. I went back to grad school. I studied creative writing. I started teaching in the theater department there. And I was also an administrator. And so it was it was this whole life shift. And from the classes that I taught, I started thinking about, humor and connection in a new way. And I just started talking about it on campus. I started talking about the course, which was like wildly successful. There was a wait list, and the shows that we would do after the class, they were sold out for 3 years. And so I was like, there's something here. And the more I started speaking about the thing, I realized I like speaking. This is a way to go deeper, and it combines what I already love. And I got hooked up with this speaking agent that just focuses on colleges and universities, and that took its own flight from there.
So it was this calling to share a deeper message. Well,
Right.
if you were to sum up the message that is Cesar Cervantes, what would you say is that message that you? What was the core of what you wanted to share?
In my keynote and workshops.
Or even now, like
Yeah.
there's something that maybe was or wasn't expressed as a comedian that you're like, this is why I'm freaking here.
Yes. Okay, that's great. So like what is my through line?
Yeah.
Um I would say that it's twofold. One is that I think giving and receiving joy in our life is necessary, and it leads us to alignment. And we're so stuck in the things that we think we have to do or that we're supposed to be doing, we forget to just chase our own joy. And we think that that's extraneous or good to have, but it's actually the path. So there's that. The other side of it is the expression of joy. The expression, to me, when you give your gift, when you communicate your gift, um, you're both giving and receiving joy in some kind of way, right? So whatever your expertise might be, if you can communicate that to people and give that to people, that's also where joy happens. So that's, a long way to go to say chase joy, communicate it well.
Dude, the sounds fun, by the way. Sounds a lot more fun than what a lot of the people have signed up for. And I think a lot of us kind of we find ourselves up, we've climbed up the tree, we'll call it a tree to success, right? Then we get to the end of the branch, and maybe the branch has what we want, or maybe it didn't. And it's like a lot of people are finding their way to try to get back to like what matters. And
Yeah.
man, that's so beautifully said. Um,
Thanks, man.
that I, I mean, I just, if we like, if leaders could just do that, if they could say, some of this is crap. Let's just imagine that this whole joy thing was like an indicator of my best work. There's, it releases something there, like that's a place of exponential possibility instead
Right.
of, I don't know, man, just like the whole hustle culture, grind and die kind of stuff.
Well, I'll give you an
This is beautiful.
example. So this will help too for folks out there that are like, well, how do I apply that? So often when I work with folks, they'll come and they'll have like multiple ideas of like what they want to share, and they're like, well, I could talk a lot about a lot of different things. And then they ask this question: what what will get me selected, or what will resonate best, with people out there right now? And it's the wrong question.
What's the
Uh,
right one? Tell us.
the right question is, what am I excited about chasing and learning about? And if you see yourself as sharing what you're excited about, what you're learning about, I mean, that is gonna emanate from you. And the reason why it will resonate is because of that fact, right? So we're trained to think about the external as the affirmation and the reason we should chase, instead of the alignment of what we're excited about. It's the reverse. It's exactly the reverse.
So, in other words, what if success was the byproduct and not the actual goal?
Right.
I love this. So all right. So you have released us. Let's get into some of the how, some of the mechanism. Let's just say a leader comes to you, Caesar, and they say, make me a TEDx speaker. And like you pull out your magic wand and then you throw it away and you're like, nope, I'm not going to do that. We're going to do this instead. And one of those things, like, do you help them to find the core message that they're curious about?
Yeah.
Then you like walk us through a little bit of the tactics, the strategy of this whole thing. I mean, obviously there's a development and then the beginning, but just putting together a life message, like how do we go about that?
Well, first, what I would say is you want to view it as a creative process. And when I say that, what I mean is that you first want to frame it as though you're trying to uncover what's trying to come out. And so whatever is worth expressing and being creative about comes from outside of us, but we're a conduit for it, right? And so if you'd like, think of it as like a collective consciousness that we're a part of.
It's like the
And
big magic book. Yeah.
yeah, and there are messages that we feel and that are coming up and bubbling up, right? And so rather than saying like, oh, is this idea worthy? First, we want to say, we want to ask, is this what's trying to come out? And that's a totally different shift in
Interesting.
perspective. Okay. So then I help them. We do an ideation where we kind of sort through that, and we would create an outline of the idea, and we would align it with TEDx, and like make it idea centric.
I'm,
And
I'm curious about that. Do you find like when you're in that place, like that almost feels like there could be some deep emotions that happen there. Do you find that people
yeah.
have whether it's breakthroughs or crying? Like, what do you see typically in that moment that is?
So ideations are fun for the most part. Sometimes they are. Um, Sometimes they'll go like, "Oh, yeah, that's actually what I've been trying to say. That's the thing." There's a lot of aha moments in the ideation. Where I see things come up is so sometimes the content is very personal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes it's just the idea of being on stage or on a platform that feels like big, or like you're going to have a lot of eyes on you. And that's the thing that can start to stir some things in us where we either self-sabotage, where we stop doing the work, or and this is where my coaching has to come in, um, or we just start to doubt the idea, and we go like, this isn't good enough, I'm not good enough. And so you know because those things we all deal with those things. One of the ways to sort of head that off is
Mm-hmm.
in coaching, asking the right questions, but also on focusing on the things that we can control, which is we can submit applications, we can work
Mm-hmm.
on the talk, we can prepare our delivery, because a lot of the nerves come from, other than the self-doubt, you don't feel prepared, or you think it's all about you, and it's
Mm.
actually about your audience.
All right. Well, I want to get into a couple of those things in a second. So, but bring us into the like. Let's just say you're getting someone to get their stuff ready. They've had their epiphany, their aha. This is what's trying to flow from me, and suddenly because of that, they've been affirmed and knighted. I hereby knight you, as the sir speaks a lot. And now you've been getting this permission and authority is there. Like, what flows next from the person that now says like, I have my message, and maybe it was opposite of what I thought it was, and I'm not
Yeah.
out thinking myself. What's next?
Well, the good news is that we're really great at crafting the idea and putting the idea into language, into words. And so that's really, the service that a big part of the service that we provide. And the work that I love to do, which is first, how do we put this idea, all of this that's in our head, into something that's can be packaged? And so there's the application, which is the really short form of the idea, right?
Hmm.
Like, here's the thing, here's the problem, here's how I'm connected to it, here's my idea.
Hmm.
Then there's the talk itself, which it's still short form as far as talks go. They're about 10 to 12 minutes, but
Hmm.
then it's more expansive. You can add more layers to it, et cetera. And we help we help folks with every part of that journey. Not all of them want help with like actually writing the talk itself, or they might be an experienced speaker, and so maybe they don't need too much of that delivery work, for example. But it really is from beginning to end, ideation, land the talk, prepare the talk. So those are the
And okay, it's interesting. Land the ideation, land the talk, prepare the talk. It's funny. I did the first two, and because like again, I had no idea until I started talking to someone recently. They're like, "Oh, you submitted 9 applications. Wow, congratulations!" Because it takes like 100 to get out there. I'm like, "Oh, I had no idea. I just thought I was stupid." Like I took it personally. I took the rejection personally. Um, so
Yeah.
so landing the talk is a part of it too. And by the way, again, if this is something that's been on your vision board, it's probably because you've been like myself, you've been overcomplicating it. You need to get a hold of Caesar and get him in front of yourself or in front of your groups. Get his book, all of those things. Um, Caesar, what would you say would be the biggest unanticipated um, positive consequence that happens from leaders who do these
Mm.
things? I guess it's the byproduct that we didn't really know we were going to get.
Yeah, great question. So the one that folks wouldn't expect is that often there's just this personal growth that happens through the process of grappling with an idea. And doing it in the short form is more difficult than having an hour. And you really have to be clear on what you believe and what you want to say and share. So if you can't say it in a sentence, you're not ready to say it in an hour, right? And that process is actually, most people have never done it, um, and they're afraid of it. um, sure, sometimes it brings up some things, with the stories and all of that kind of stuff. But I think the byproduct is being able to both be comfortable in the short form and being unequivocal about what you believe. And then I would say also, once they see the structure of what can create transformation, you can't unsee it. And you can literally prepare for any talk in a short amount of time once you have that structure.
Ooh, wow. I'm curious. I know you've seen lots and lots of these. You've worked with a ton of people. Some of the people that have been on this podcast have worked with you. What is one of your favorite transformation stories where you've seen someone go from, I don't know, or like, and maybe the mouse becomes a lion, or I don't know, like, but what's been one of your favorites that you've been able to
Mm.
witness?
There are many. There are some cool things that have happened to my clients. Like I had, a client who she gave her talk. Um, Jamie Seaman is a Dr. Jamie Seaman, and she talked about women building muscle. And uh, she's a physician, but also is like in the gym, and has her own story of transformation. Well, she gave this talk. It was brilliant, and she's got a good following on Instagram. The talk did well. I think she got like a few 100,000 views on her own. And from the talk, she also got on Dr. Phil, Chris Cuomo, um, and some other stuff. And then TED, 2 years after she gave it, TED elevated it and made it like a full blown TED talk. So, like what happened to Brene Brown, Simon Sinek, Mel Robbins, where they take over the marketing of it. Like, really cool, fantastic story. And she's brilliant. That's one example. There are a bunch, though, where people's businesses change from a few thousand views, from just
Mhm.
sharing it within their communities, within, like, I have a dentist who, like, she speaks all the time now because of her talk, and she's got, keynote after keynote because of how good that TEDx talk was. Um, I'll share one other thing that I think is pretty cool. So I had one client where you have to create a little pitch video. So you have to get on like and create a 1 to 2 minute video of you essentially sharing the idea.
Mhm.
And she really struggled, like being on camera and not sounding like a robot. There, and and we went back and forth, and I was coaching and doing and saying the coachy things, right? And to her credit, she stayed the course, but she couldn't find like that conversational tone. And it had a lot to do with just really being ingrained that she needed to show up in life, anywhere she went, as someone else other than who she was. I get emotional just thinking about it. Like, so she was truly finding herself, like through the act of saying, the words that we created about her idea, but needing to show up in a way that was just like she was having a conversation with a friend and not presenting something that she wasn't.
Oh my gosh. By the way, you're hitting on something that I think a lot of leaders struggle with in their leadership. And Caesar, I think a lot of us have a persona, and we bring someone else in front of people other than the one that's like, and it takes a lot of freaking effort to bring this persona thing with us. What you said earlier that one of the big mistakes is a lot of people make this about them. Have you like what have been some of like have you been able to reverse that on people, or have you seen some people that just wouldn't give that up before, or how do we get away from being the selfish talker?
Yeah, well, first of all, we have to acknowledge that we all do it. We all have some kind of default to lift ourselves up or make ourselves the hero of our own story. In part, we do that because there's some insecurities, right? In part, we do that because we just don't understand how speaking and transformation works from the audience perspective. We think that we need to prove that we belong on stage when actually being on stage is the credibility. So the audience is not doubting your credibility. You're already on
Okay.
stage. The only thing you can do is diminish that credibility. And so I think that realization, I think, is the first, just seeing it. The second is to understand how, especially in this day and age, how people why people want to work with you. It's not because you have the resume. Um, it's because you give them something genuine and authentic that they want to be a part of. And the only way to do that is to dig into what's trying to come out.
Hmm. Wow. Caesar, you have made all of us think a little bit differently today. There's so much, like probably should have masterminded a little bit better way to ask you more questions. But honestly, I'm just a selfish guy. I'm here to get my questions answered. But man, if you could give us, let's just say there's someone that this has been there. Like if there was one thing that we could do to take action towards the TEDx event. I'm looking for my vision board. One step that we could take towards that thing that's on there. I'm gonna give away number one. Get a hold of Cesar Cervantes. But number two, what would be one thing they could do that that would put them closer to that? And then let's tell them how to find you, and we'll say goodbye for now.
Yeah. So what I'll say is that when we think of speaking, we often think of like what it looks like. How do we present? What are the what are the mechanics of it? And what I would ask you to see is that, especially in this day and age, where things are more and more manufactured and it's much easier to manufacture them, um, finding how you just speak and connect with people naturally is something that you need to trust. And when you communicate the idea that way, people are gonna be attracted to you. So that's what I would give.
I love it. Where can we find you, my friend? We need you. We need Cesar. Where can we
Ah,
get you?
um, CesarCervantes.tv. And you can subscribe also to the newsletter, and I will send you opportunities every month. And actually, I'm realizing, man, I've got a client waiting, so I gotta go, man.
Oh, go get it, Cesar. Thank you so much for making time with us. We
You
will
bet.
say goodbye for now. And for those of you who are there, we'll say goodbye to you, Cesar, and I'll let you go. But for the rest of you guys, listen, Cesar's been the hero of our journey, and be more authentic, be the author. That's where your authority comes from. And Cesar, you've helped us lead better. Now we can live better. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, brother. See you, man.
Bye for now. See ya. Coming up next week, you are absolutely going to want to be with us as we talk to Alex Sabag. I always mispronounce her last name, but navigating life's toughest moment. If you are in one of those moments, if you're not, you will be at some point. So we will see you here on Leadership Live. And thanks for being a part of my Wednesday. Hopefully, you have been able to, or we've been able to be a part of your winning on this Wednesday. Until next time.